So my name is Aina Alive, and I am Agile and Enterprise Coach living in Canada, and passionate about Agile, team training, and everything which is close to soft skills. And Danish, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Aina. So I would like to keep it short. So I have a couple of decades of overall experience, out of which decade have been dedicated to my learning journey in agility, and would love to share my experience with safe implementation as well as our overall agility. Any questions with respect to anything else? So, and it's a privilege to be joining Aina and have sessions for last couple of times. Thank you, Anna, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you for keep joining me, Danish. And let's do some recap of the previous session. So last time we were talking about business agility, and again, you can find it on the Agile website. I will share the link later, but not to repeat myself, I will explain it briefly in a bit different way. So let's imagine that we are having a factory. So in the factory, we need to produce different materials, and we have machines and processes, and needs to deliver them to different countries and sometimes even different continents. So what I mean, we need to have lots of agility within our factory, and to make everything run smoothly, we need coordination, and we need a system to manage these processes. So SAFe framework is exactly the system which has different levels, like team level, product level, portfolio level. Like in the factory, we have different levels and operations. And you see there is lots of going on this slide. So basically, SAFe framework is made to help the teams to collaborate, to coordinate, and to expand communication flow between like teams and departments. But what's the most important is to deliver value to the customer. Now, this is a brief explanation of what SAFe is, and maybe let me give you another example of movie making to be a bit more like creative and agile in our explanation. Now, I think most of you watched Friends or like any other series for fun, like to entertain yourself after work or like during the weekend. So imagine if we tried to create Friends, which has like 10 seasons or so, like from the beginning to the end. So it will take years to shoot it. And then when you start introducing one episode to another, it will appear that it's not appealing to your customers, to us, to the audience. So it would mean that we spend so many years of creating a product and nobody needs this product, unfortunately. So how they use like agility in creating these episodes. So they shot the episodes from the beginning to the end, which is like 20 minutes, and then deliver it to the audience and got the reaction. And actually the first episode didn't go well compared to the others. So they adjusted on the fly, taking our feedback. So what do we want? Like what parts of life we want to see from Friends? What kind of like characters we want? Do we want them to get married, or do we want them to remain single? So all of this feedback was like captured during the first few episodes, and then you see how successful it was. So SAFe is kind of like similar for enterprises. When we have a product which is evolving like from 1 month to another, from 1 year to another. And that's why all of this coordination and communication is happening to deliver as soon as possible value to the client and gather feedback and adjust our next batch. Dinesh, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, that's a wonderful example, and just to say it, like basically SAFe, or as we call it, a scaled model for agility or a scaled agile, that's what it is goes with, basically gives you a framework to work with in different scenarios. It can cater to different kind of complexities, different type of set of the organizations, even government organizations, and help you get organized. So it's not something like, it's not going to be doing something for you, but if you follow it, it will make you help, it will help you make things happen in the right direction in your organization. These are the basically the guardrails and basically how you can organize yourself around value and deliver value. That's whole crux of the calling out business agility. It's not about information technology or processes and or something. It's overall agility, bringing that agility into the organization and deliver incremental value, shorten the feedback loop or getting those feedbacks incorporated into the work being done. Very creative example given about the series or any web series or any series. Like just think about it. Like we see a lot of movies uh, that has big budgets, a lot of time is spent, but when they get released, they flop and the big flops, right? If we think about it, what if we had feedback from the customer or were listening to the customer's feedback on similar movies done and adapting our narrative and creating that movie in a different set or different way that could have been a different result. So again, same goes with our long-term big projects. We create those products or create those movies, but when it goes to the market, it doesn't meet the expectation. Hence, it flops. But if we start doing those in incremental batches, it will be a much better adaptation. I'm not going to say it's going to be a super duper hit or blockbuster, but it's going to be much better adaptation by the clientele about our product if we are listening to them.
Yeah, thank you, Dinesh. And to add to this movie theme, so if we create like a movie, like 1 hour, 30 minutes, like 2 hours, we probably wouldn't need, say, for any other like heavy framework for that, because it's a shorter project or a product with just 1 hour, 30 minutes. So we're creating it from the beginning to the end using like any other like lighter frameworks and then deliver to the customer and just see like what is happening. But if we are talking about shows, like the product, which lasts like years or a few years, or sometimes even like 10 plus years or 20 plus years, I can't remember anything other than Santa Barbara right now, but that show been lasting I don't know, 20 years or so, just because it was created one episode after another, and the creators gathered the feedback and still saw the value. So they kept creating it. And without having this customer feedback, how would you know? Maybe you already need to close it after like the season 5, or maybe it can last another 10 seasons. But let's move on to the release train. So how can we implement SAFe? So first of all, we need to create Lean Agile Center of Excellence, which is responsible for promotion and adoption of SAFe across the organization. Because if we don't have evangelists in the organization, it's kind of like hard to move on further. And talking about the evangelists, we train Lean Agile change agents would go like to the business units inside the organization and promote this change and promote SAFe new framework. So then we train executives, managers, and leaders. And after the key people are trained, we identify value streams and release trains. So value streams means that we are mapping the value, like the flow from the beginning to the end, how we will deliver value to our customer. It's kind of like before building trains, we need to build a road and we need to build a map for these trains. So when the map and the road is created, and I know that many people today are from Ontario, so let's say like before sending a train from Toronto to Mississauga, we need a map, we need to find out how we are going to send it, and then we need to build a road. And when this preparation is built, we start preparing the trains, and we also need to create the implementation plan, because we don't need just one train. If we are talking about transportations, we are looking about multiple trains, multiple roads, so eventually the system will be complicated, so we need a plan. And then we prepare our release train to launch. by preparing safe for architects, safe for Scrum Masters, product owners. So again, we create training. So we have these teams. And after we create the teams, we need to train them, obviously, and start coaching the execution, meaning to introduce DevOps practices, which is basically the practices to coordinate operations with developers. And again, we had a session a few weeks ago regarding DevOps. So I will send you the links if you're interested from Be Agile. And when we tested end-to-end, so for example, a train from Toronto to Mississauga, it works. We have automation, we have software we need to launch more arts, more value streams, more trains, and expand our roads. And then when it's done, we extend to the portfolio and basically accelerate. And this is the end of our roles. And Dinesh, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so this is very good articulation of how a transformation could take place in any organization and how we can find more efficiencies and create more synergies across different levels and bring in more consistency across the implementation. And the emphasis is always going to be there in making sure that everybody is trained, aware of what are we going to be doing, how are we going to be doing it. Now, what is different in different courses, you will see there, I put in a lot of check marks here, but there are different courses that are going to be done at a different life cycle, different part of the life cycle when you are in early stages. You are not training everybody, you are just training those change agents, which is probably your portfolio managers and your leaders or managers who are going to be becoming champions of those change, and then work together with them to define and design how you are going to be going about it. Once you have created your implementation plan, that's where you get into role specific trainings, because you need more change agents to deliver that transformation in the organization. And then that's where you see there are specific courses like product owner, product manager, scrum master, and architect come into the play. And the once we have done that, before even we get to the launching the art or do our planning sessions, there is a course for everyone on the team, like be it developer, tester, UI designer, does not matter what role you play. Everyone gets to understand how does the safe model works for everyone and gives them insight into the role, they should expect, how they can support the value chain in delivering value to our users, to our clientele. And once we have done that, that's where you start getting into look into, okay, how you are going to be managing all this, and then product management comes into the play. Now you must be wondering why these courses has been kept here. Like, why are not those courses here? So this is all about incremental value delivery, incremental enhancement of the knowledge or skill set for the team. This is being kept purposefully after you have launched the arts and you have started coaching them into execution. And that's where the need of continuous improvement, that's where the engineering practices come into the play, that's where the DevOps comes into play. And that's where you bring Agile and DevOps together to build a robust pipeline that is going to be delivering value continuously to your end user, getting you feedback on continuous basis, uh, ironing out all the deficiencies in your system. So this leads to more continuous improvement as you are executing and getting matured in your journey. And then once you've done that, okay, ART stands for Agile Release Train. It's basically okay. That's a good question here, and let me address that. So it's a metaphor for actual train. So if you see a train starts with the uh, your engine in the front, right? And that's what you see from here. If you see, we have engine in front, which is our leaders. Those are the change agents. Those are the engines who are going to be driving it. And then you will have different bogies attached to the engine, and they all travel in the same direction. The metaphor train is used by SAFE, that you are all collectively moving towards common goal in one direction. Because if efforts are not going to be unidirectional in one direction of the goal, your efforts are going to be nullified. And there are huge cases where you will see if part of organization are pulling on the different direction, your net result of your transformation becomes standstill. You are not moving in any direction. Hence, train going on the track in same direction, everybody is moving in the same direction, heading to the same destination, is the reasoning behind why metaphor of train was used by Scaled Agile. Right, very good question there. Thank you. And then we extend it to the portfolio. And then once we do this, then we have to find the change agents who are going to be leading those practices, coaching those art executions in going forward. Like we necessarily as coaches may not be required to be there for lifespan of that organization, but we should create agents there who will be taking forward that practice as RTE or advanced Scrum Masters to move forward in the right direction and keep moving in the right direction for the transformation.
Yes, thank you, Dinesh. And while Dinesh was speaking, I checked up the chat and my LinkedIn. So ART means Agile Release Train, and Divya and Nina, I saw you had troubles joining. So I see you here in the audience. Just wanted to say I'm glad you joined and thank you for coming. And so that was a recap from our last session. And since today is dedicated to Q&A, I will pause here and looking forward to hear questions from you guys.
Don't be shy, speak up. You may say quick one-liner intro and then ask your question. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, hi. Perhaps I can start off. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed your first session. So I'm happy that you guys provided this overview on SAFe. My question is, I'm just to let you know, I also have the Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master certification. I've used both iterative incremental waterfall as well as agile practices. And what I was trying to hope you could maybe help shed some light is how different is SAFe from, let's say, Disciplined Agile? As you know, you guys are all PMPs. PMI is promoting Disciplined Agile, and I especially like Disciplined Agile because of its emphasis on context, using context to choose the right delivery method, and it doesn't prescribe anything. It's the teams choose what is the right method, depending on the different types of flavors of delivery models that are available, right? So what I was hoping that you could give to me is how is, let's say, SAFe different from, let's say, Disciplined Agile in its model, and what are the main differences, and maybe what are some of the advantages and where you think SAFe could be used, rather than, let's say, a Disciplined Agile delivery.
Thank you, Dave. That's a fantastic questions. So let me say it this way. Frameworks that exist in the market, it's not Disciplined Agile or SAFe alone. There are other frameworks also, and we have Agile at Scale. We have what's this called? Forgetting one more name, which is very popular in Europe. Craig Larman's model.
Many unpopular.
There are many.
Yeah. So less. Yeah. Joe said it. Yeah, less. So that's more radical approach to do transformation, and you have to have a very strong leadership to stand up and be able to state that we are going through this pain, but we will transform. So there are different frameworks that are available, and thankfully I have had my brush with all of them, including Disciplined Agile, Dave. So I can certainly tell you, when you talk about at the team level, it's basically two majorly adopted practices or frameworks that are there. One is Scrum, other one is Kanban, right? So when it comes to the teams, when you are looking at the team level, There is no difference whether you are talking about disciplined agile or less or dead or sorry or agile at scale or anything else or nexus for that matter. Everywhere in the foundation you will find three things there. One, which is Scrum. Second, that is Kanban. Third, that is XP. So XP is basically for technical practices, that is being including your pair programming and reviews and whatnot, right? So all those three makes the foundation of any of the scaling framework. Now, how these scaling framework works are little different. Some provide guardrails in terms of how you do. Some provide you more detailed guidance on how things can be done differently. Some provide you guardrails in terms of delivering value. And that's where SAFe comes into the play. That SAFe has built in lean principles, agility, XP practices all together, but it does not really prescribe you what you opt for. It provides you the guardrails. It will provide you guardrail at every level, at your team level, at your program level, at your portfolio level, at your large solution level, at your enterprise level. It does provide you the guardrails within which you operate. It's, if you really ask me, if you look at the Scrum, it's very easy to understand, difficult to adopt, and your implementation of Scrum could go anyway from good, bad to ugly. Same is with SAFe. How you implement in your organization, how you adapt to the culture that is currently exists, and work towards making changes to that culture makes the difference. And this is where SAFe provides you those guardrails to make those differences on cultural aspect. And this is why SAFe puts leadership at the center or the foundation of it. If you go back to the previous slide, Aina, about the framework of the SAFe.
Okay.
This one. If you see here, it clearly calls out, this is what makes or breaks. Without this foundation, we cannot really have any of this achieved. We cannot work towards bringing business agility into our organization if our leadership is not aligned, if our leadership does not understand. So it tries to set that foundation. So SAFe is emphasis, and there is also SAFe House of Lean. If we get into more details, I can actually talk on days and days on SAFe. So I've been practicing SAFe for many years now and have been part of multiple enterprise level transformations. So, and I'm passionate about it, but I'm not saying that this is the only solution. There are multiple solutions, and your organizational context could be different, whether SAFe is going to be working for you or not, or maybe a different variant of SAFe. Like I've seen organizations where they built their own agility framework on top of SAFe. They will have 60%, 70%, 80%, 90% of everything but SAFe offers, and then wrap it with some things that they want to do different in their particular organization. So again, it can be tailored as well. So in essence, any framework that is available in the market could be right one for your organization based on what are your end goals, how you want to move forward, what all different things you want to do. So I am not here to bash any other framework available in the market. Everyone is good. Everyone could be the right solution for you in the given context. So I would let leadership introspect. What are they actually looking for? Are they looking for something radical, which is going to be coming in, making difference? And are you willing to take that hit? Because that change is going to be painful. That change is going to be costly. And that change is going to be long lasting also, because once you have gone through that change, once you have gone through that dip in your performance and your deliverables and whatnot, because anything radical is going to be having a hit on your bottom line also, because it's going to be heavy investment upfront. Like if you are going to be adopting something like less, it could be really radical. So this is where, and some are there which I'm not going to name the names there. So some are there which will probably will not change much, and it will take a long cycle for you to go from point A to point B. And SAFE is somewhere which has been proving itself to be worthy of adoption by the large enterprises, medium enterprises across the world, and being a leading framework in delivering agility. And this is not something for me to say or for Aina to say. If you go, there are case studies that has been done by the organization who has adopted SAFE and directly coming from the client's mouth. So not from even Scaled Agile. So it's working. And is it working for every organization that is trying to adopt SAFE? Again, that's not the case. I don't have the numbers because those numbers are not published anywhere, but it doesn't work in each organization. It may work partially in any organization, it may work fully in any organization. What is the important part is how much leadership alignment is there, how much they are willing to put on the line. Who in the leadership is willing to put their neck on the line for the transformation that organization has to undertake. And typically, unless you have one or two strong leaders and the senior leadership in any organization, having a true transformation is really a mirage. Without their leadership support, you cannot really transform, no matter how big or small the organization is. So this is what, it's a long-winded answer, Dave, but
no, thank you. No, Dinesh, no, I appreciate that. I know it's a difficult thing to answer, and I don't know how valid these statistics are through. At least when I took the DASM course through PMI, I know that they threw out some statistics that they were saying that kind of some of the more well-known agile practices, looking at different studies, right? Compared to, let's say, waterfall, they've seen maybe between 12 to 14% increase in productivity. Again, it's very difficult. There's no empirical database studies that show a particular method is better than others. And if I remember correctly, and I don't mean, and if I'm wrong, it's my memory, they were saying SAFE is anywhere between 6 to 8%. These are what they published, PMI, but yeah, I mean, you're quite right. I appreciate your answer. It's not the framework, it's the kind of overall principles. And what I took away from you is that there are intersections between the various agile methodologies, right, that you can choose.
Absolutely. If you really ask me, and I have studied more than one framework, you will see underneath almost 70 to 80%, they talk about the same thing. Mm-hmm. You will not find differences. They may call it differently, right? Mm-hmm. For example, what could be called two names? I'm just trying to think through something. Okay, like Scrum of a Scrum, right? Yes. There's a Scrum of a Scrum. There is a PO saying, so some other may call it a scaled meeting. Some may call it PO saying. Some may call it a scaled portfolio meeting. But ultimately, what they are trying to do, what are their objectives by doing that particular thing? You will find 80 to 90% is overlap. And that's the ground reality. Because see, if you're trying to adopt agility, if you really ask me, and I'm being very blunt and honest here, if you can implement Agile Manifesto as it has been written, core values and those principles, you don't need any framework. Now, how SAFE helps you? SAFE helps you bringing all those values and principles as part of their framework as guardrails and aligning each of those very, very clearly. Very clearly, it aligns all those values and principles in their framework. Yeah, Aina, you are saying, yeah.
Yeah, so since we started talking about frameworks, I decided that it's going to be more beneficial for our audience to see like different frameworks rather than roadmap. And since I already started talking, I remembered what my professor told, and he actually changed my life. Back at the time, I was like 18, 19 years old, and I studied electricity. I'm an electrical engineer. This is my first degree. And so when we started learning about different types of factories and plants like coal plant or like a hydro station or like wind and a solar plant or nuclear power plant. So I naturally asked my professor, so what is the best? What is the right way of like building this plan and what is like wrong? Because like being 18 years old when you learned and seeing like the world in black and white, so this is right, this is wrong, this is good, and this is bad. So that was my genuine question. And my professor replied, Aina, if we had one best plant, we would study just this plant. And we would build just this model. We wouldn't have any like solar plants, for example, or hydro plants if we decided that nuclear plant is the best. So like summing up what Dinesh said, there is never like right or wrong or like better or good approach. There is always like pros and cons, and Dev, you just mentioned some statistics. I don't remember the numbers, but definitely number would say that one approach is better than another. One approach will bring us like 60% of productivity and the other just 45. But again, coming to the power plants, also coal power plant will give you more like numbers than water power plant, for example, or like solar plant. But we still use them because numbers are not the only one metric and not the only one criteria. And again, based on what numbers we are focusing on, do we want like productivity increasing or do we want like market expansion increase? It's going to be different numbers. And talking about discipline agile, when I just joined that stream, when it was just like developing a few years ago, what I've learned first that discipline agile is actually not really a framework. It's more a toolkit based on different frameworks such as like Scrum, Safe, Kanban, because like these are frameworks. So means frame. Frame means you have like a prescriptive way, like flexible, sometimes less flexible, but we have a frame like from here to here how we're going to implement. And again, since there is never like right or wrong approach or like one framework is not like better than the others in general, so definitely they have some not just pros but cons. So discipline agile tried to play with this like pros and cons and create a toolkit and teach us how to use this toolkit and how to play it and like create kind of like own framework, depends on the organization and organizational needs. Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you, Dev.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and as you can see, like as long as we are improving and we are improving in delivering value to our clients, it does not really matter what exactly you are following, whether it is Scrum or Kanban or XP or DEAD or whatever it is, right? But one thing which is not here right now, is a Scrum band. Like lot of teams. I know personally a lot of teams, a lot of coaches also have started talking about Scrum band, which is basically a combo of Scrum and Kanban, because there are some Scrum practices which are really good, some Kanban practices which are really good. You just create all those together and your team is working more of a Scrum. And like, for example, a Scrum team does not have WIP limits. Kanban has WIP limits. Now, can a Scrum team benefit from adopting WIP limits? Absolutely yes, if they adopt it right way. Like, so bringing those, like if something is good in other framework that can help you deliver value faster, help you mature your agile maturity faster, adopt it. It's just all about learning and adapting, inspecting and adapting. And that's where SAFe is really good. SAFe's emphasis is on inspect and adapt. They want you to inspect and adapt as much frequently as possible in your given context. Again, some organization can inspect and adapt in 1 week. Some organization may not be in a position to inspect and adapt for a month. But again, your organizational context is going to be the real driver of making that change. Right? We are ready for next question, I believe.
Yeah.
So don't be shy, folks. Speak up. It's your time, it's for you, and we are here to answer to best of our abilities. And if you don't know, we will say that we don't know and we will come back to you. Anyone is feeling brave enough to speak up?
I see the hands from Daniel. Daniel, please.
Could you explain in a bit of detail? So we go above the team level. See, teams can do their work together, but can you explain a bit more around the Agile release train of how the teams come together and actually deliver within the program increment?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's a fantastic question again, Daniel. Not Dave, sorry. Yeah, Daniel, thank you. So Agile release train basically, see, if you really ask me if you want to draw a parallel, let's get started with it. So we are all aware, we all come with traditional experience in terms of the waterfall and all. We are all aware about the project and programs, right? So it's kind of, yeah, program. Now, program is what? Program is where you have teams or projects that are delivering connected with common objective. The same theory applies there. It's just that how you operate is different. In traditional world, it's different. You do all upfront planning, long planning, and then you let teams do, and then they come back and try to integrate 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line. That's what gets different in Agile release train, where you have teams that are working together in delivering something that is going to be having a common thread. If your teams are not having a common thread, probably you're trying to mix up different solutions and trying to, that will probably will not be a really value add from overall construct perspective, but that could be an organizational limitation. But ideally, those teams should be delivering towards the common objective. They should be trying to work as independent as possible, as less as interdependencies they can have, but they are still connected. So like, let's take an example, like we are working all digital world. So if team is working on digitally creating a product that is going to be used by end users, then you will be requiring so many things done differently. You will be requiring to do your web update, you will be requiring to do your app update, you will be requiring to do your backend updates, you will be requiring to do your UI updates and whatnot, right? Now, how you define those teams, we have to go back to the drawing board there itself, because the moment you talk about art gets defined based on the systems they are supporting. Basically, arts is the collection of people supporting the systems, and those systems are supporting the steps in the value delivery, your value stream. Now, if we have not done our part of understanding our value stream, that is our top layer, which is like ideation to realization of your value for your user, for your organization. If we have not understood that and we have defined arts arbitrarily, mark my words, we are certainly going to be going through a lot of pain there. But if we have defined our value stream correctly, we have understood what systems are supporting this value delivery, who are the people who are supporting this, and we are working in a geographically very distributed environment, right? We all working in organization that has teams working out of different time zones, and also that's where the distributed part comes into the play. We have to understand how those teams are distributed, what team is working and supporting what, and then when you define your art, you take all those things into consideration and make sure you are defining your art in a way that it is going to be leading to incremental value coming together and delivering that value faster. So now how those arts work, how those teams within art work. So within art, your teams are still going to be working on their respective frameworks. It could be Scrum, Scrumban, Kanban, whatever it is, right? However, there has to be common minimum agreement on how their sync and cadence look like. And that common minimum agreement is really, really important. That's irrespective of what framework they choose to follow at their team level. that they will be meeting at so and so frequency, they will be discussing this all, and they will be doing integration. This is going to be the frequency of their integration. This is how they are going to be adopting to continuous integration, continuous deployment, CI/CD pipeline. Also collectively, they have to build that. So all those things comes together, because once you have those collect teams that are going to be delivering on common objective, you will find that if they work on a same pipeline, it's going to be much more efficient, and value delivery is going to be much faster. Now, if I go back and do not do my groundwork of value stream itself, everything else that I'm doing could go like a pack of cards, and it's not going to work for us. So in essence, importance is to defining, refining, and delivering, rather than trying to organize around delivery. No, organize around value, define your teams based on systems and people supporting it, based on geography supporting it, and then have them work together. Have them work together in understanding what is going to be done in safe. There is a quarterly event that's called PI, or program increment planning. And that is really, really important. And that's also called big room planning. And in pre-COVID world, I've been part of organization where they had 200 people coming together in one room, one big giant room, and looking into the things together, right from all the decision makers. So the whole idea of those PI planning or big room planning is you define your next quarter, understand what all needs to be done, make decisions so that you are enabling your teams to deliver value. And those decision makers has to be committed. And that's where, again, I'm going back to our scaled slide where we have the lean agile leadership at the foundation. That plays a big role. Now, I'm sure you will have more questions, Daniel, based on my answer, because I have tried to give you like right from 30,000 foot view to do 10,000 foot view. And I will appreciate more questions and more detailed conversation. I'm all open for it. So suit your next question, Daniel.
And Dinesh, we have a question from Dora. So maybe let's give Daniel a short break.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dora typed on the chat, please, how does the release train engineer comes into this safe framework from a Scrum Master point of view?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So if you really ask me what exactly RTE does, so RTE does what Scrum Master does for the team. RTE does it for the teams of teams. Now, RTE does have some additional responsibilities in addition to what a Scrum Master does on a team level. And that's why we talk about a different progression of the roles of Scrum Master, as well as Scrum Master and RTE. So RTE coordinates the work across different teams. They bring in together. They also help with the budgeting, budgetary aspects and all, which is not there from Scrum Master perspective. So that's the difference. If you see, but it's an higher level role from a Scrum Master perspective. You will be still be requiring same facilitation skill. You will still be requiring same mindset of being a servant leader. You will still be requiring your coordination skills that is going to be required. So facilitation, coordination, collaboration, and servant leadership, all are going to be the essential value. It's just that you deliver it at a program level versus the team level. So if you look at this picture, RTE will come into the play at program level. Scrum Master is going to be coming in the play for the team level. So basically, this is how it works.
And thank you, Dinesh. And the following from Dora, is it recommended for a Scrum Master to be both RTE and a Scrum Master?
That's going to be a conflict of interest in their responsibilities, and they could be biased in their decision making. Hence, it is not recommended approach to have a same person being RTE and a Scrum Master of one team out of multiple teams. Well, Agile release train is expected to have anywhere between 5 to 10 teams, right? Because Agile release train size could be up to 130, right from 50. So 50 to 130, if you have it, you're talking about that kind of a size of Agile release train. You're talking about anywhere between 5 to 10 teams. When you're talking about 5 to 10 teams, you're talking about at least 5 to 10 Scrum Masters. And if one of the Scrum Master is going to play the role of RTE, there is going to be a conflict of interest and bias coming into the play. Hence, it is recommended to have these persons different. Though it is not unusual to see that if you have a small setup where you have only 3, 4, or 5, only 5 teams, and someone very senior can play that role, as long as that person is able to detach when he's playing the role of RTE, not being biased towards his team that he's Scrum Master.
Thank you, Dinesh, and thank you, Dora, for the questions. And yes, it's unfortunate that some companies want us to do everything, but it's up to us to keep educating them and explaining why we have just like one role dedicated to one person rather than one person dedicated to 5 or more roles. Good discussion. Thank you, Dinesh and Deva.
And just to add there, it's not unusual in the teams where we have mature teams, like they have been together and worked together and understands all the Agile practices, XP practices, technical practices, to have Scrum Masters shared. Like you could have 2 teams sharing same Scrum Master. Again, the recommendation is do not go overboard with more than 2 teams, and that too, if you can manage a different time zones that are going to be required for those teams. So yes, you can be Scrum Master for 2 teams, but having Scrum Master and RTE certainly, in my personal opinion, is a conflict of interest.
All right.
Yes, Dave.
Can I ask a follow-up question on
Absolutely.
Dora, on your response to Dora? So if I've understood it correctly, I think you mentioned it's ideal, you were thinking the ideal release stream size is what, between 50 and 130, is that what you said? So are you saying that it's, this kind of framework works well when you have multiple, release teams between 50 to 130 in size? Did I understand that correctly?
Okay, so when I say 50 to 130 is about Agile release train size.
Yeah.
Agile release train is worth, see, you have to look into the cost benefit also, right? If you only have a couple of teams, it doesn't really make sense to have you establish a whole Agile release train construct, because it's going to be an overhead, right? You will be better off just dealing with those 2 or 3 teams as an individual teams and work together and have some lean scaling practices rather than full-blown scaling practices, right? But the moment you are getting to a critical mass of 5 teams or roughly 50 plus people, right? Because
50 plus
Agile teams
people
are expected to be somewhere 8 to 10 member teams, right? 6 to 9 is ideal size, I know. But typically 8 to 10 is you will find in the industry is a normal size. And then you have a Scrum Master, product owner. And then the moment you talk about 5 teams, you are already looking at somewhere around 60 mass there. And then you have other stakeholders. Those are going to be key stakeholders working day to day. Then you are going to have external stakeholders. So the moment you talk about 5 teams, in my experience, you are talking about bringing around 80 to 90 people in the room to have the planning, because you not only need those teams, but you also need those stakeholders who are going to be interacting. You also need the business, and it's all about bringing business and IT together. It's not about having those conversations separate, but having everyone together in the room and break down those silos, plan together, deliver together, and having the mentality of one for all for one. So
yeah,
individual team size is still the same, 6 to 9. That's ideal size for the dev team within the whole team, Scrum team or Kanban team. But yeah, typically, and in my experience, I have seen this to be 8 to 10, and like overall, including Scrum Master, product owner, I've seen 11, 12 member teams. That is very unusual across the industry.
No, thanks for clarifying that. Actually, it was my confusion. I thought you meant 50 to, that makes more sense. It's about 50 to 130 total
Yeah,
team
and
size for
and this is
multiple,
there is a very
multiple team
scientific
sizes.
reason
Yeah.
behind it. Like even from the team perspective as well as from the art perspective, the scientific
Right.
reason behind it is your communication channels.
Yeah,
Those are going to be
absolutely.
exponential, right? The moment your communication channel within team goes beyond 10 plus members, and when I say 10 plus members, 10 plus members working delivery, not product owner and scrum master. They are outside of that. The moment you start adding one more, you will see exponentially your communication channel will becoming a spiral web, right? The more you increase, make it 12, it will be like completely spider web. The moment you have a spider web, your communication is meant to be broken. I would put it that way. So always keep it under 10 for sake of better communication and collaboration.
And sorry to one more question.
Sure,
Do you
sure.
guys have a slide anywhere that shows, let's say, some of the big organizations? I'm talking any organization between 40,000, 100,000, where they have adopted SAFe and they have kind of adopted. Obviously, it's not going to be adopted across all projects and initiatives, but where there is a substantial, let's say, permeation or adoption of SAFe within that organization. Is there
I can
a couple
quote
of examples?
I can quote a couple of examples right away, and that's where I started my journey, also agility journey there. So if you see Capital One in US is one of the biggest agile organization if you talk about in banking sector, and they were also the first ones to adopt SAFe, and they were also first ones to adopt more technical practices, and they have collaborated with Scaled Agile to bring in a lot of improvements in different frameworks. Like currently we sit on 5.1 and another one is just around the corner. The new launch is going to be coming in for the Scaled Agile in a week's time. There is a uh, information session coming in next week from Scaled Agile about launch of next framework, which is going to bring in further improvement. And that is also another, I would say, plus for SAFe for Scaled Agile is they are always evolving. They started with 1.0 back in 2010 or 11, and we are currently sitting at 5.1, and probably 6.0 is already around the corner. They are always evolving. We see how SAFe has evolved over the years. We are taking into consideration the feedback we receive from our clients, which is organizations implementing. And there has been always even minor versions that bring in more fine tuning of the framework that has been suggested. So Scaled Agile itself is adopting agility in launching their newer version of the framework.
Thank you, Dinesh. And we have a new question from Divya. So kindly suggest, is it a requirement for a Scrum Master to do a SAFe certification? How to gain experience and knowledge if we had to know more about SAFe?
All right, so that's another wonderful question, and there is no right or wrong answer, but let me answer this in this way. Certification helps you demonstrate your acquired knowledge about the framework that is being applied in a particular organization. What it does, it helps you open the door into the organization. So for example, if my organization trying to implement SAFe, our approach would be to hire people who already understand SAFe, who already know about SAFe, right? Rather than hiring someone who doesn't know SAFe, and we have trained them. So if you say being a Scrum Master, is it required to be a SAFe certified Scrum Master? Plain simple answer is no. You don't need a SAFe certification, any certification for that matter. Even acquired knowledge and your skills on the job are the best teacher you can have. And if you have a substantial experience about your practices, about Scrum practices, Agile practices, Kanban practices, whatever it is, you don't really need a certification to play the role of a Scrum Master. But when you're looking outside, within same organization, probably nobody's even going to ask you. But when you're looking outside, the organization, when they're trying to hire, they would like to know whether the person knows about the framework we are adopting in our organization. So it is certainly a good marketing tool for yourself to have in your CV, have it in your LinkedIn, so that you can demonstrate that you have acquired knowledge about it. Do you have all the skills for this? That is depend on what experience you have had and how you articulate your experience along with the acquired knowledge in your interview is going to be your next step in your journey for adopting SAFe. Hope I answered your question, Divya. So as long as you understand Scrum, you can let team understand Scrum. You can play the role of a Scrum Master. As long as you have good facilitation skill, you have mindset of being a servant leader. Nothing stops you from being a Scrum Master.
And I can share from my personal experience. So before I got this certification, I practiced SAFe in previous organizations, but kind of like being a self-learner. And I felt very confident just going through the materials, through some online trainings. But when it was about to start another contract, the recruiter asked me if I have SAFe certificate. And I told, no, I don't, but I have up to 3 years of experience. And he told, okay, I will speak to the organizations. So eventually they hired another person who had a SAFe certification. So there's another question, if I would want to work for the organization which values certifications more than experience, because that person had less experience that I did, but haven't SAFe certifications. But I decided that it's going to be a good asset to my skills and the proof and validation of my skills to have these certifications. And when I joined my current contract, so we heavily use SAFe, which again, I felt quite confident, but sometimes I noticed that I don't know some terminology, so I need to Google it like quickly during the meeting. So studying SAFe Scrum Master, Advanced Scrum Master certificate helped me like to build this vocabulary, so identify the gaps in my vocabulary and fill them in, and also to structure my knowledge I gained working like handy and also learning online. So I would say, like I would agree with Dinesh, it's a good asset, but it's not required to be a good Scrum Master.
Thank you, Anna. And as we are at our time box, so we should let people go, but we are open for any questions. You can feel free to connect with us, send us a question. We will be happy to answer your queries. And
yeah, and let us
really
know.
Excited to having you all here, and thank you for joining us in.
Yeah, and let us know if you have further questions. So we will create another Q&A, or maybe like topic dedicated Q&A. We are always happy to share our knowledge, and thank you very much for spending your Friday lunch or evening or morning, wherever you are. It's always a pleasure to collaborate and see new faces in our rooms. Thank you. And thank you, Dinesh, for keep joining me and sharing your knowledge.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone, once again, and have a good rest of your day and weekend. See you next time.
A great presentation. Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.